Chapter 1. Matthew 13:24. He put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven may be compared to someone who sowed good seed in his field. But while everybody was asleep, an enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat, and then went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared as well. And the slaves of the householder came and said to him, Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where then did these weeds come from? He answered, An enemy has done this. The slave said to him, Then do you want us to go and gather them? But he replied, No, for in the gathering the weeds he would uproot the wheat along with them. Let both of them grow together until the harvest. And at harvest time I will tell the reapers, Collect the weeds first, and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. Prescott, Arizona, Sunday, December 6th. Samantha Ross lay asleep behind the driver's seat of her beaten-up old car, curled oddly under a tattered brown leather jacket. Two bare white feet stuck out from underneath, the tips of her toes turning pink from the cold. Her slender neck craned uncomfortably at a right angle, in a dreamless state better described as unconsciousness than sleep. Her bladder fired off rapid signals to her brain, with synapses begging relief, urging her to wake. She began rousing slightly into a dim and foggy awareness. Rain clouds accumulated gracefully up above, floating into one another. They slowly merged into large, billowing gray smokestacks, heavy and pregnant with water, though not quite enough to start a heavy downpour, only a light, gentle shower let loose. As raindrops came down and a light tapping sounded tranquilly through the interior cabin, the urge to pee won out, and Samantha's eyes opened slowly despite her still, tired mind. She tossed off her jacket blanket and fumbled clumsily for the door handle. Finding it at last, she stepped out barefoot onto the wet ground. In one fluid motion, she squat and pulled down her pajama pants, leaning against the car, sighing quietly in relief. Her long curling red hair collected dew, becoming slightly damp in the rainwater. Once she finished, she stood and reached back into the door, pulling the lever control to pop the trunk, hearing the hitch release. Samantha carefully maneuvered around her pee puddle as she stepped to open the trunk and rummaged through a big duffel of clothes. Finding a mostly clean pair of jeans, new panties, and a wrinkled black tank top with a band graphic on the front. The smell of rain hit her nostrils, and she breathed in deeply. She paused, clothes in hand. She then bent her neck to look straight up and let the water hit her face. She relaxed, still feeling a little stiff from a night cramp in the front seat. After thoroughly soaking her face and hair, she skipped back to the front seat and closed the door. Samantha had always loved the rain. Jason sat passenger, and he snored lightly, not waking yet from the noise. Samantha fetched her oversized purse from the back seat and blindly felt for what she wanted, finding a package of makeup remover wipes. She opened the latch and took the last two out, tossing the empty plastic on the back floorboard. She looked at herself using the rearview mirror. Slight freckles scattered on her pale skin, complemented by smudged mascara and last night's eyeliner. Wiping away proficiently, she finished the task and grabbed a wide brush. Starting at the ends, she swiped aggressively until all her hair was smooth and uniform. It shone fiery red in the rising morning sunlight. She met her own green eyes in the mirror again and convinced herself that this was almost as good as a shower was, maybe better. She started the car and turned the heat on full. As she started to undress and put on her day clothes, warmth slowly filled the car. Jason stirred and sat up in the passenger seat. Sleep filled his eyes, and he grabbed at a half-full, now flat Dr. Pepper soda bottle and drank thirstily. Not really satisfied, he leaned down and grabbed out of a small Ziploc bag at his feet, retrieving a folded foil and straw, arranging it all with a lighter in hand, lighting the flame to inhale a deep lungful of smoke from the down-sliding black substance. Holding in his breath, he launched himself out of the car door, stretched wide, and grabbed a water bottle from the back seat. With a large exhale of smoke, he tried to ignore how sick he felt in the mornings. Raindrops were steadily falling on him, and he got in the front passenger seat. "I'm tired of sleeping in this car. It's too small," he complained grumpily, looking back into his bag. His eyebrows furrowed together as he saw how little was left of his stash. Annoyed, he busily tried righting himself with the remainder. After about 5 minutes of inhaling and exhaling puffs of smoke, he approached a tolerable feeling of existence. Samantha reached across to rub her hand on his shoulders. "Maybe we can get a tent or something. We'll figure out what to do. You always make things happen when we need it. I believe in you. It's just a tough time like all the rest. We'll make the best of it." Jason's irritation grew as he remembered the scene from a week ago of a mutual friend of theirs. December 1st, Prescott, Arizona. Ned Williams told them they would stay on his one-bedroom apartment living room sofa, when in fact, as long as they kept him high, most nights Jason and Samantha could actually stay in the bedroom, and Ned got left with the couch. Out of his mind high, as they took full advantage of the situation and basically ran the house. Ned paid rent with his veteran's disability check. Ned lost one of his legs in Afghanistan, and when he came home stateside, the swirling rage mixed with depression made him turn to the false comfort of drugs. Doctors had readily given him strong pain medication for his lost leg. Real and phantom pains kept Ned awake at night in agony. The little blue pills had become Ned's only physical and mental relief from the nightmare life he had found himself in when he returned home from Afghanistan. Soon enough, Ned found the pills were less effective, and the doctors were unwilling to increase his already high-dose prescription. This eventually led to him seeking out the more hardcore stuff. Unfortunately for him, when he crossed paths with Jason, the temporary relief and easy high was a wild time of temptation too good to resist. Financially, Ned was set for life after the leg amputation, even with the rising inflation and the economic hardships in the U.S. Ned's checks promised him a very stable yet mediocre life. At least it was, until he made the deal to invite Jason and Samantha to his one-bedroom apartment to live with him. That started the addiction that led him down a spiraling rabbit hole of bad choices. Quickly turning to his government-paid apartment and monthly disability check into a trap he couldn't escape. From that point on, time flew. He provided a place for them to live, and in return he enjoyed the company, getting a taste of a life he'd never known. He accepted this new way of living for what it was, including the bad parts. Jason made a necessary distraction he wanted in life. Having always been an atheist, his religion used to be the military. Now without it, having no spiritual foundation, he'd lost his leg and lost his purpose in life. Having Jason and Samantha around was just what he needed, and Jason knew it. Nights of partying, loud music, insulin needles, glass pipes being puffed, random faces showing up at 3 a.m. Jason kept a lively atmosphere and helped him to feel alive again. Ned was a fun guy when he loosened up a bit. Some nights he'd get so worked up, he'd take off his prosthetic and do a one-legged jig around the apartment, shimmying and laughing the whole time. Jason almost ran a small business out of there. Pickups and parking lot drop-offs, making easy money with zero living expenses. Let the good times roll on. Jason remembered giving him the dose that led to his OD. Heading off into the room that night laughing and grabbing Sam's sweet little body around her waist, pulling her to the bedroom with him. "Catch you in a while, Ned." What a sweet deal he had going on there. Samantha and he had it all, with Ned's disability check paying the way. That guy was the best thing to happen to them yet, and Jason was starting to feel accomplished, seeing a real future for Samantha and him. Until that morning, finding Ned's body next to the couch, blue skin and stiff-limbed. Samantha shook him awake violently, tears running down her eyes. "Jason! Jason, help him!" Anguished wailing sounded in her throat, loudly echoing against the apartment walls. Samantha really had come to like the guy. Long nights of discussions and stories retelling difficult memories. with the loose, unguarded feeling that the high brought Ned as they passed the pipe all night, getting spun to the ceiling. He told his heroic war stories and confided to her the way he could never do with a paid therapist. Jason respected him too, though he didn't mind using him for all he was worth, despite the fact. When Jason stumbled out of bed and lay eyes on the man, pale and gray on the floor, he knew he was dead. Lifelessly laying there, his soul had departed a long time ago in the night. He felt confused. Had he given him too much? Then, angry at the work he'd have to do now to get him and Sam out. When Jason spoke, it deferred blame. He probably took his damn pain pills without the shot last night. He swore to me he was out and he did a bigger hit. Damn it, man! Samantha cried, kneeling in the corner, sobbing deep wails. Seeing the situation for what it was, Jason hurried around to gather the small amount of clothes and belongings they had into 2 medium-sized duffels, shoving jeans, shorts, and t-shirts, and lastly, personal belongings in the duffel bags. "Let's go, now!" he screamed at Samantha as he pulled at her arm hard, then even harder, practically yanking her out the door, carrying 2 duffels across his chest. Stepping carefully over sleeping bodies, unconscious people lay unaware and too high to notice the loud commotion around them. Gently stirring, the trap house's regulars had reality's harsh and unforgiving early morning recognition begin dawning on them. Samantha and Jason made their escape, driving away quickly into the pastel morning light. Present day, Saturday, Prescott, Arizona. Jason tried to stretch the soreness from his back and neck after almost a week of living out of the car. The cramped situation had started getting to him. Samantha turned to him and continued, "Tents are bigger. We'll have enough room to at least stretch out, and we can get a mini propane heater to keep warm," she suggested. Why hadn't he thought of that? "Where are we going to set up a tent?" he countered. Jason didn't like the idea of living in a tent. It was better than this. He was going to prove it. They both deserved better. "I used to camp down Walker Road with my mom and dad when I was little. My parents, sister-in-law, I all slept in a big tent. We went every year. It's some of the best memories I have with them. Dad cooked steaks on the grill, and Mom always had board games for us all to play, snacks and everything." Samantha paused, reflecting on the memories, looking longingly through the windshield, gazing off into the distance, and then continued. "She was so different then. Until I got older, then both of them changed. Dad started making a lot more money at his job. I think it was friends at work who started him on coke or something, because it all changed so fast after that. He stayed out late, then sometimes we didn't see him for days. We learned he eventually ran off with another woman. I haven't heard from him since." Jason seemed to really be listening. He looked at her fully. He offered up a new hit placed on foil and lit a lighter for her to inhale the smoke with a straw. Getting high with Samantha was the only way Jason felt connected to her. Without it, he didn't know if she'd be interested in him. As beautiful as she was and smart, she challenged him with her quick wit. He used the drugs to his advantage and showed a lot of bravado when he could. Now, with Ned gone, the situation changed. He felt an unwelcome, pathetic feeling creeping through the high. He hated that feeling, and the anger made him desperate to find a solution, fast, no matter what it took. Samantha paused in her explanation. Troubled with the memory, she exhaled with a false acceptance of it all and continued. "He stuck around long enough to get Mom hooked, though. She would stay up all night yelling and argued with him when he finally came home. Then they would disappear into the bedroom. She never had a real answer for where he'd gone off to when we asked, other than working late. But I know now what was going on. He got her addicted to drugs, and she stayed with him despite him cheating on her. Even once she found out, she'd become so desperate and hooked she stopped paying real attention to us. Seemed distracted all the time. Right before he left at the end, he came home one night acting real nice to us. His eyes were real wide, and he was sweaty. He hugged my sister and me over and over, telling us he loved us so much. He gave us each a new doll as a surprise. Even though I was getting a bit too old for them at the time, I acted like I loved it. My little sister did. Samantha's face was grieved now, and there were tears glistening in her eyes. He stayed close to my mom that night, holding her hand. He brought her flowers. He talked real fast and loud, telling her he got a promotion again and had a bigger opportunity out of state, that he'd be gone for a little while. He'd given her some money. I don't know how much, but it seemed to make her okay about it. I don't know exactly what he did for work, but I remember that night well. He spent the whole night in our room talking to us and reading to us like he used to, brushing his hand in our hair until we fell asleep. The next morning he was gone, and we never saw him again. With a small trembling in her voice, she continued. The rain was falling, a little heavier now on the windshield, and the pattering white noise of raindrops gently filled the brief silence. Months passed, and when we asked about him, the answer was always the same. He was doing work out of state. Mom's emotions were all over the place, and we stopped asking because every time we did, she'd get really mad. I knew she was doing stuff still. She wasn't the same, and eventually got a boyfriend, I think. Or at least a guy who brought her more stuff all the time. He wasn't a good guy. She left us at home a lot to go off with him, and I took care of the household stuff, like laundry and cooking. Then one day, she didn't come back. She was gone for 3 nights because one morning there was a lady with a black suit knocking at our door. She told my little sister and I she was with Child Protective Services and that Mom was in trouble, then made us go with her. We found out she was arrested for drug trafficking. It must have been a lot because they gave her a long sentence. The 2 of us stayed in foster care for the next few years until we aged out. We never knew our grandparents. We didn't have any other family to stay with. They couldn't find my dad. We never got placed with another family. We've been to see her a couple times in prison, but it's such a far drive, and Miranda, my little sister, gets really upset afterwards. We mainly write or email. Miranda lives with a guy she says is her boyfriend now in Flagstaff. I don't know much about him, other than he takes good care of her. I miss her, and I wish I could see her more. Jason was beating her hits off the foil as the emotions unfolded from within her. Painfully dredging up her past, he saw it was a win. A way to get closer to her and make ties, ensuring she wouldn't leave him. As she was spilling out her heartfelt stories, tears wet her face. She had never shared so much about herself since they'd met. Somehow living in the car together this last week broke down some invisible barriers, a wall she had built up for years now. Keeping her younger self, and whom she was back then, tucked away safe. A vulnerable childhood her, safe behind self-fortified brick and mortar. She felt finally connected with him in this newfound hardship after Ned's death. It may have served a purpose after all, pushing them together into this harsh world, now harsher with his death and their loss of the apartment. After a week of sleeping here and there in the car, Jason had kept the drugs coming, and with deliveries and pickups, the time had gone by fast in a flurry of hazy memories. Fogged by the intake of substances and the occasional late party, Samantha had hardly noticed not having a safe haven to call home. Her car and Jason was all she needed. Jason, however, not really listening now, even as touching a tale like this was, began feigning interest while passing the foil back and forth to build up a strong morning buzz. Suddenly, he found his interest focused on something else. His dwindling dope supply had come to almost nothing left. After last night, then this morning's smoke sessions, it was almost gone. Samantha continued with details of her story as his mind whirlwind to figure out a way to get more money for the next few days' supply. Setting on a trunk full of things he'd previously stolen from a superstore, he made a plan in his head and set a final destination to Wendell's trailer to pick up again by late morning, all in his foggy mind's GPS. Cutting her off mid-sentence, "I've got to take a whiz," he stated, stepping out into the rain again, shutting the door hard behind him. Walking away a few feet, he relieved himself on a wall. They'd parked by a dumpster in an abandoned old movie theater parking lot late last night. hidden way behind the Dollar Movie parking lot, abandoned now because dollar shows were all quickly going out of business. Even after becoming $5 shows nowadays with the current economy, unable to pay wages and expenses, shut down, while big-name theaters barely kept their heads above water. Dollar movie shows became a thing of the past, and knowing that precisely was the reason he said to park behind here last night. Jason told Samantha to pop the trunk and quickly fetched out a few of the stolen items from his bags, counting in his head what he could get in gift cards from them, debating what was worth the most, then what he could ultimately get away with returning with the least suspicion. Finally grabbing 3 items from his duffels, he hopped back to the passenger seat. He explained what they needed to take some things back to Walmart, and Samantha should do her thing while he did his. They drove to the Walmart and parked. The rain had let up a good bit, and was just sprinkling now. Samantha checked her makeup in the mirror and gave Jason a kiss on the cheek before getting out. "See you in a while," she said with a smile, as she walked away through the parking lot. His eyes watched her go, long red hair falling down contrast against her black tank top, bouncing back and forth as she stepped. Then his eyes focused down lower on her swaying hips fitted tight in her blue jeans. He wanted to make things right for him and her. Things were so good at Ned's place, but that was over. He needed that type of thing, but better. Jason set his mind on not settling. He'd go inside and return these items, and get her the tent she requested too, though he knew damn well he'd be in better circumstances soon, whatever it took. Of that he was sure. He noticed her walking up to a family who'd just gotten out of a newer-looking Ram 2500. The bearded man with them stood straight, broad shoulders, held back in a clean button-down shirt. His wife was sporting a name-brand blouse and jeweled bracelet, a slender arm wrapped around her daughter. With smiles and cheer, the warm intimacy of this privileged family irked him. He saw the woman talking to Samantha, then take out a wallet and hand her a bill. He also saw there was more money in that wallet. A lot more by the looks of it. The family went inside, and so did Samantha shortly after. Jason busied himself claiming the last remnants of his stash bag. He put the sun visor up for some privacy and began to prepare himself for what was to come, smoking the rest of his supply for a Hail Mary high that would last him till he got to Wendell's. With each puff of smoke his heart hardened. The heck with it. He'd finish it off. Every puff fortified his lack of empathy, getting so far gone he couldn't remember the definition of sympathy. He would do anything when he got this way. Mumbling out loud to himself now, "They don't deserve it, I do." Anger filled him. He grabbed his bag of invalid returns and stepped out into the mist. Attempting to compose himself, he tucked his shirt in and made his way to customer service. Luckily, there was no line. "I'm sorry, sir, but without a receipt, I can only issue a gift card, and only for $25 for each item, regardless of the price. It's store policy, sir." The plump woman was annoying him with her high-pitched voice, but he'd been here before and knew the drill. With great patience, he spoke. "Yeah, fine, I'll have the gift cards." As beads of sweat made their way down his face, his impatience showing as he tapped his foot. With furrowed brows, he held his hand out to accept the 3 store gift cards. Relieved with the small success, he went to the camping section and looked at the tent options. A lot of them showed happy families sitting in front of the tents with collapsible chairs and fold-out tables, barbecuing cheerfully and obviously having a good time for the cameras. He saw one tent in particular that said "Dark Rust, 60-second setup," that appealed to him, and he lugged it to the front checkout to pay with his new acquired gift cards, then only needing an extra $20 to complete the almost free purchase. He was in a better mood now, knowing Samantha would be happy with this. In fact, he could see her smile now as she waited patiently at the in-store Subway near the front entrance, standing with a bag in hand, bearing some pink packaging in it. He didn't bother asking what, guessing she was probably on her period. This girl was a little higher maintenance than anyone he dated before, though it'd been a while. He had just finished a 5-year prison sentence, and now, with how beautiful Samantha was, he'd look past a lot. Carrying a new camping tent in hand, lifting it like a trophy, he smiled broadly as she walked out beside him, staying close to his side. On their way to the car, he saw the family again. Same warm smiles and pressed clean clothes. Something about it drew his gaze. He remembered the wallet with cash in it. He watched as they loaded their groceries, then drove away. He quickly decided to follow, turning the key to start the engine. Tailing them, explaining to Samantha casually that he was just checking to see if their house would be a good target for later. She knew Jason made a habit and a profit out of driving around neighborhoods at night, looking for left-open garages, then later sneaking in when the coast was clear to take advantage of an easy steal. Eager to pawn his rewards afterwards. Expensive bicycles, power saws, cordless drills, generators, anything of good value. Jason would be there lurking in the night, ready to come up on something good. He'd perfected his trade, and there wasn't an ounce of fear in him now. Drugs and prison had hardened him. The general empathy he once held for humanity wasn't there in the least. It was time for them to learn from their own foolishness, not to leave such values unguarded and unchained. He saw the family pull into their driveway and park. He drove past and parked a block down, around the corner, out of sight. Telling Samantha to wait here, he stepped out into the steady rain. Droplets fell heavily on him now. He pulled up his hood and cinched it down tight, covering his face, walking back to the corner where he kept an eye on the unsuspecting family. The man and both women were grabbing handfuls of bags and carrying them in. Jason's eyes tracked them, as he stood closely to the wall of the neighbor's yard, mostly hidden. The padding of rain falling on him, sounding in his ears, the water cascading and landing on the exposed parts of his face. Finally, it seemed to him they were done when the wife came out alone. Making his move, the rapid sound of footsteps, covered by the rain now. He saw the woman take out her purse. By now he was right behind her, breathing heavy with anticipation. He wound back his fist and with all his strength swung and hit the woman. She fell almost immediately from the force. He simultaneously reached to grab the purse, yanking hard to pull it from her arm. He spun on his heels and bolted away, back around the corner, faintly hearing a man shouting in the background. "Evelyn?" it shouted. "Evelyn, are you all right?" He glanced back only once to see a man kneeling above the woman, holding her as she lay on the ground. Rain falling all around him, he pounded his feet hard against the pavement. A loud thunder cracked in the distance. He ran as fast as he could back to where Samantha and the car were parked. Reaching the car again, he stepped into the driver's seat, tossing the purse in the back, shifting into drive and speeding away. Samantha stared at him. She saw his chest raising and falling with each breath. Heaving air, Jason was soaked and had his hoodie up, now a darker color, wet with rain. As they drove, she turned to see the purse, the same purse of the nice woman who gave her the $10 that morning. The one whom told her God was real and things would get better. The one whom she thought she'd like to be like someday, caring and thoughtful, with a real family of her own. The neighborhood was passing by them now as they sped fast down the community streets. "Jason, that's the nice lady's purse who gave me money earlier. Is she okay? You didn't hurt her, did you?" Worry plastered itself across Samantha's face, the sound of concern evident in her soft tone. Turning to see her expression, Jason paused, thinking over his response. He pulled into an apartment complex, driving to the back and finding an empty parking spot. Shifting into park and grabbing the purse from the back, he said confidently, "No, of course not," lightly chuckling. "I just snatched it from their truck when no one was around. I saw an opportunity, went in to grab it while the family was loading groceries inside." Jason tried to sound genuine. Still breathing hard, he started opening the purse and shuffling through it. Finally opening the wallet he saw from earlier, his eyes grew wide as $100 bills appeared in his hands. Samantha had paused at the sight of the money too, shocked at first at the amount it seemed was there. Then her eyes drifted to Jason's shaking hand. The knuckles were bright red, and spots of blood appeared with some parts. She reached out and touched his hand with hers. "Jason, Your hand is bloody. Is that woman all right? Pressing her fingers down on top of his to draw his attention, but the next thing he pulled out of the purse made them both stop. In Jason's other hand, he held up a large black handgun, gleaming darkly in the dim, overcast daylight. Jason's eyes grew wider with surprise, and then delight. Samantha gathered herself, feeling an odd sensation of fear and exhilaration. Still holding his hand, she demanded an answer with her persistent squeeze. Looking into his eyes, Jason had a smile on his face. Nah, I would never hurt a woman. I banged my hand against the doorframe. I was sort of in a rush, you know? But whoa, would you look at the prize? He turned to face her, setting the gun pointed down back into the purse between them on the center console. He pulled out the wallet and started counting the money in front of her, hoping to distract her with the reward. They both watched quietly as he counted out the bills one by one. $560, he said in a quiet voice. That's it. Things are finally looking up for us. Suddenly moving, his arm jerked back, throwing the car into reverse. He pulled out of the parking space. Samantha already knew where he was going. She took the purse and shoved it under her seat. Jason now had the money in his pocket. A small flame of distrust ignited within Samantha. She doubted his weak story. She could tell Jason was feeling desperate ever since Ned's, but would he have done what she thought he did? They had a plan, a way to make money. All she had to do was keep asking people for it, which kept gasoline in the car. With Jason returning things now and then, they had enough to keep up their supply. It was enough, right? The car and each other. Now they had a nice tent and a spot to go. She imagined the cozy nights within its confounds, the campgrounds of her childhood. Although now, she didn't know if Jason wanted the same things. Was he lying? Nevertheless, she pushed the thought from her mind for now. He was providing for them. Look at all this money they'd made, all without anyone getting hurt. She put her hand on him while he drove, smiling at him. They switched on the radio. As they sped toward their destination, maneuvering the car carefully in the rainy streets, things were looking up, she thought, and she was going to be with Jason, along for the ride.